We do. Just one more minute and we'll, no, 7:30. We're going to call the meeting to order. If you'd all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The next item is approval of minutes from the regular meeting of January 6, 2021. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll move to approve the minutes from January 6, 2021.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Lou, any changes, errors, or omissions? If not, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. We are recording, right, Nick? Thank you. The next item is approval of the agenda. Jim?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we amend the agenda. Add under new business a sub C, and the topic would be sidewalk update with possible action.
All right. Sidewalk update with possible action.
And I'll second that.
Thank you, Lou. All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. Communications and correspondence. I just want to point out that the town did receive word that we've received the community connectivity grant for sidewalk replacement of about $525,000. We'll get more details on that as time goes on. We're very pleased about that. I also want to point out that our brownfields project at 248 Brownstone Avenue, all of the tanks have been removed. I had a meeting today with our licensed environmental professional, and there's just a few more things to clean up, but Connecticut Scrap Metal did a wonderful job for no cost to the town. All of the tanks are down, and now the remedial action plan is being fine-tuned. It'll go to the state DEEP, and soon thereafter, the project will be put to bid. So that project's moving along very nicely. Lou, did you have some information for us tonight?
Sure. I sat in on a Zoom meeting last night with the Middletown Clean Energy Task Force and the Jonas Center. There was a wonderful power presentation about the Middletown power plant. Now, even though the Middletown power plant is in Middletown, we, living in Portland, receive the emission from the power plant. And the emission from the power plant is the big concern, not only in Middletown, but also Portland and maybe anybody downriver from that, East Hampton, Haddam, East Haddam, where the particulate will increase, the nitrogen oxide will increase, the carbon dioxide will increase. So instead of reducing our carbon footprint, this new plant that they're planning at the Middletown plant would make things worse. So the clean energy from Middletown and the Jonas Center are looking not only for the people in Middletown to send letters to the governor and say, listen, this doesn't align with the clean energy reduction in carbon footprint within the it'll be a non-renewable versus renewable energy that the state is pushing. So they have asked Portland and the Portland Board of Selectmen and the first Selectman, and Andy Bauer was on the call as well, to see if in fact there could be some pressure or at least a stance or a resolution that the town of Portland is concerned as well. I mean, we will be the recipients of the emission. Middletown residents will be recipients of that as well, but they will also receive almost $3 million in taxes because of this power plant that's going in. The one thing that I was really surprised about and didn't know, that this power plant would generate more electricity, but it wouldn't generate electricity for Connecticut. It would generate electricity for those states, Massachusetts and New York, that have a cap on their emissions. So in other words, the states of New York and Massachusetts have caps on their the emissions that are polluting the air, because they don't want it in their state. However, they need more electricity to operate. So they asked this company, whatever company it is, I'm not sure. They said Middletown Power Plant. I think it's Eversource, but I wasn't sure. But this power plant would generate electricity for Massachusetts and New York, but we would get the emissions. We wouldn't get any benefit from that. So there's a concern that we have is that, and I have a question, is that if in fact there's a cap on emissions in Massachusetts and New York, why isn't there a cap on emissions in Connecticut? So there's a lot of discussion going on. Andy Bauer knows more about this than I do. He's going to touch base with Susan and myself and see if in fact, do we want to support the clean energy in task force in Middletown, the Jonas Center, in addressing the issue of not going forward in reducing emissions, but going backwards. So as soon as I get more information on that, I'll fill you guys in.
We can put it on a future agenda and invite our Clean Energy Task Force members as well, certainly our chairman, Andy Bauer, perhaps, to participate.
Okay, and I will share that with Andy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lou.
You're welcome.
The next item is public comment. Nick, is there public comment? At this point, we have no public comment, so we'll go on to old business, racial equity, diversity, and inclusion. And if April Graves is available, we'll have a report from April. Hi, April.
Hi. So we met last week. We had our monthly meeting and we developed our survey questions. And right now the task force is just working really hard to get the survey out to as many people as possible, to get as many people completing the survey, because we truly want to hear, what everybody in the town feels and what our direction needs to be and what our starting point is as a committee. So I know I sent it to everybody here, so hopefully everybody will fill that out and share with anybody else in your network or anybody you know. And the survey ends January 31st. And then we'll be using the survey results for our discussion at our community forum with the police, Board of Education, school representatives, and youth services representative. And that will be February 22nd at 7 p.m. So just really trying to get the word out right now. And that's what we're doing. And then our next meeting will be February 9th at 7 p.m. on Zoom B.
I have one question, April. In terms of a hard copy of the survey, were you able to get some copies in the kiosk in front of Town Hall? There's a plastic envelope holder.
Oh, okay. I will make sure that those are there. I think I put them in the wrong place. I put them around the back.
Where in the back?
On the Dropbox.
Okay, in the front of Town Hall, there is a cover, a plastic container that you can place them in. And
Okay,
then
yeah, I saw that container.
you can leave them in both places. I think that would be fine. And if people want to drop them in the overnight box that's behind Town Hall, right near the main entrance, that would be fine.
Okay. All right.
Thank you. The more places you put it, I think the better. And you've done a nice job with your task force of getting the word out on those surveys. I took mine through SurveyMonkey. I think it took me less than 5 minutes. It was really well done.
Yeah, the average time it's taking is 5 to 6 minutes. I know some people have clicked on it and saw it and thought it would take a long time, but the average time is 5 minutes or less.
Yes, well done.
Thank you.
Welcome. I don't have anything from my office on the re-entry committee. Is there anyone who wants access, Nick, to talk about it? I don't think we have any department head. I'll just add one thing. It's not entry committee, but it is vaccinations. Tomorrow, Thursday, the 21st of January, there will be a vaccination for COVID-19, a clinic by the Chatham Health District for people 75 years of age and older. You must have an appointment. And if you're listening tonight and you have questions, please call the Senior Center, 860-342-6760, and someone will be happy to help you. And if there is no more space for appointments tomorrow, we're anticipating additional sessions that will be held. And our Senior Center and our library is going to be helping people to understand the way they can get the vaccination. There's a lot of questions from our constituents, so we look forward to working with you and trying to answer questions and get you appointments so that you can be vaccinated in accordance with CDC and the state's priority groups. And as I said, right now the priority group are people that are age 75 and older. The next item, I just wanted to point out that the Route 66 corridor study was completed. This was through the River Council of Governments, and Ty and Bond was the contractor. Copies of the report are available online at the River COG's website and also by calling the land use office. They did a really good job of determining the current status on Route 66, some of the safety concerns, as well as business and opportunities that are coming along Route 66 over the next 20 years. So it's a template against which additional work for improvements to that corridor can be made. It helps when we're writing grants. It also helps when new businesses come into the area and they want to adhere to the recommendations of that study. I also point out that the connectivity grant I mentioned a few minutes ago, we did utilize the draft report to get that grant because the Route 66 study had indicated where sidewalks should occur and also encouraged the bus depot that we will actually have up the street on High Street. So that corridor study was well done, and I encourage you to take a look at it. Appointments to boards and commissions. I think Rick Shaw had an appointment tonight.
Yes, I'd like to nominate Michelle Donahue to an open position on the Economic Development Commission.
Is there
I'll
a
second that nomination.
Seconded by Jim. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? Motion carries. Are there any other appointments to boards and commissions tonight?
Not this time.
Okay. Under new business, authorizing resolution, Connecticut Small Cities Program, Community Development Block Grant. You do have that a resolution that was sent to you. We've talked about this grant before. It's a $350,000 grant that is for homelessness prevention and shelter diversion. And I want to bring to your attention that this application was made and the actual amount will not exceed $306,800. We're asking you to approve that, and I'll entertain a motion to move that resolution.
I'll make that motion. So do we want to, we don't have to read it, or would you want it read? Like, I'm just curious if you want it read into the record, or you're comfortable just making the motion as it's titled?
I think that's your call. If you'd like to read it, that's fine.
Okay. All right, I'll make a motion that we adopt the resolution titled authorizing resolution of the Board of Selectmen, Town of Portland, Small Cities Program, dated January 20, 2021, certification, certified a true copy of resolution adopted by the town of Portland, Connecticut at a meeting of its Board of Selectmen on Wednesday, January 20, 2021, and which has not been rescinded or modified in any way whatsoever, would be signed by Ryan Curley. It says, whereas federal monies are available under the Connecticut Small Cities Community Development Block Grant Program administered by the state of Connecticut Department of Housing and pursuant to Public Law 93-383 as amended, and whereas pursuant to Chapter 127C and Part 6 of Chapter 130 of the Connecticut General Statutes, the Commissioner of Housing is authorized to disperse such federal monies to local municipalities, and whereas it is desirable and in the public interest that the town of Portland make application to the state for $350,000 in order to undertake a small cities community development program and to execute an assistance agreement, therefore one should be offered. Now therefore be it resolved by the Portland Board of Selectmen, one, that it is cognizant of the conditions and prerequisites for state assistance imposed by Part 6 of Chapter 130 of the Connecticut General Statutes, and number two, that the filing of an application by the town of Portland in an amount not to exceed $306,800 is hereby approved, and that the town of Portland is hereby authorized and directed to file such application with the Commissioner of the Department of Housing to provide such additional information, to execute such other documents as may be required by the Commissioner, to execute an assistance agreement with the state of Connecticut for state financial assistance if such an agreement is offered, to execute any amendments, rescissions, and revisions thereto, and to act as the authorized representative of the town of Portland.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Rick. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Letter B, refunds of excess payments. Jim?
Sure, I'll make a motion to refund the amount of $314.17 to VW Credit Leasing LTD.
I'll second it.
Seconded by Ralph. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
I make a motion that we refund the amount of $57.31 to Brandon R. Zajac.
Second it.
Seconded by Ralph. All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
And I make a motion that we refund the amount of $27.90 to Lalani Furman.
I'll second that.
Seconded by Ralph. All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. Letter C, sidewalk update. Mr. Tripp.
Yeah, we had meeting of us, of the Sidewalk Ordinance Committee, actually last Friday at 1 o'clock. Had a really good discussion. So a couple of quick updates in that we have finished with the projects that were currently approved by in the bonded monies. And the latest version of that, or the latest project, was the west side of Main Street, getting up past Arvid. That work has been completed, but importantly, the final closeout, the administration and the closeout of all that is completed. So we were able to determine, I should say we, Finance Department, Tom and Bob, and the team were able to determine that there's $128,000 remaining that we can use to target some additional work, which is what we were hoping we would see. In addition to completed work, the connectivity grant work, which was Main Street, heading north, basically as far as the sidewalk went on the east side of Main Street, which really, if you remember, this helped fix some of the really ugly areas that we had along that stretch of road. That has been, the work has been physically completed. And at this point, there's some administration closeout items that have to be completed, but that connectivity grant itself is effectively, the work is done. That brings to really the kind of the crux of talking about today. We've taken a look at the 128,000. One of the goals has been to target some of the streets where we have some issues. And the street in question here is, we're looking at Fairview Street. And there's a stretch that needs to be replaced between Foley and High Street. We were hoping, because we know we have a cost estimate for that, we would end up with enough sufficient funds, and it looks like we will. The key is the stretch that we're talking about is the south side of Fairview along that stretch. Currently, the sidewalk has a lot of panels that are broken, that have deteriorated. In addition, there's not a lot of curb reveal that is left. And in some cases, the road at this point, you've got a sidewalk that is not properly pitched. And we have some places where the road runs in a heavy rainstorm, we're not properly containing the water at this point, and it's allowing water to cross the sidewalk and end up in yards, etc. In addition, that is currently coming across from Biz. This section will complete the link that runs between where they come across from Biz. We've currently done, coming across on Fairview, we've done the west side of East Main Street. The town hall section is complete. The only remaining sidewalk to be done to have a connection to High Street for the folks that walk to school will be this section. The only sidewalk in Fairview in this area is on the south side of Fairview. Based on the estimate of the work, it's anticipated that with the $128,000 that's remaining, there will be a little bit, potentially a little bit of funds residual from that, not enough to take on a large section, which obviously we have some sections we do want to try to target in the future. But but we would also be looking potentially at doing, looking at the northeast corner of the intersection of East Main and Fairview. That's the one intersection that hasn't been, that's the one corner I don't think that's been fully rebuilt yet. But it would allow us to work at that corner and then go north. There's some panels that are in disrepair. So we might be able to get at least some way up from there to try to fix at least a part of it with some of those remaining funds. The other thing that's important, because this will raise, I'm sure, some questions, would be the sidewalk project itself, looking at it, would not move. If you take a look at, we use the integrated sidewalk along the town hall. The issue there is going from Foley up to High Street, we would not do that. We would actually leave the sidewalk where it is and leave a snow shelf in between the road and the sidewalk. The reason for that is that's an area where there are gas lines that are running. So we don't want to get into a situation where we're replacing that sidewalk and putting a brand new sidewalk on top of an area where you've got gas lines, and we would just have to break them up if they had to have access to them. The anticipated number that we got that was reported to us is probably about $115,000 when we look at the engineering, having some residual and doing the work, which means the $128,000 would allow us to do that. And that's where you leave a little bit of a gap to potentially do some of that work on the corner. Again, not enough to do a large section. So that's the report in terms of the reasons. Really what we're hoping, and this was that meeting, by the way, that's Mike Pelton and Lou are part of the committee, and we talked about it, and it was a unanimous consensus that this would be a good place for us to target going forward. In talking with Bob Shea, who was there as well, this is an area we'd like to try to target soon in terms of getting something in terms of engineering and get something out to bid, because now is the season. It's a good time to bid. And keep the momentum going and see if we can attack it this year. Any questions on any of that information?
Jim,
Yes.
I didn't quite follow because I was in the middle of sneezing.
Oh, sorry about that.
It's all right. No, it's not your fault. On Fairview, what section of Fairview on the south side are you doing?
Sure. It would be the remainder of what has not yet been done, right? So the east side, or the west side of Fairview, or the west side has already been done, right? Between East Main and Main Street's already been completed. The sidewalks on the south side of Fairview that are adjacent to the town hall have already been completed. That sidewalk has been done up to Foley. The section we're talking about is from Foley to High Street, which would complete the sidewalk in that area.
Okay. Got it. Thanks.
And that would give us at this point, we would
questions?
Oh, sure.
Any other questions? I'm sorry, Jim, what did you say?
No, that's fine. I was kind of going to go the same place. I don't know if there's anything else.
You need a motion from the board to approve the recommendation of the sidewalk committee.
Yeah, I can make that motion if you want. Basically, I would make a motion that we approve the recommendation of the sidewalk committee and proceed towards using the available funds to work on the section of sidewalks on the south side of Fairview between Foley and High Street.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Rick. Any further discussion? Thank you for the work from the three selectmen, Mike, Lou, and Jim, and Bob Shea as well.
Yeah, that's the only other comment I wanted to throw out there, is that it really is, it's a really good testimony to the fact that what we've been able to accomplish with that monies that were allocated and the amount of sidewalks, between trying to make it go, that money go a long way, what we've been able to do with grants, and just the way that Bob and Tom and the team has basically administered it. I think we've gotten more done than we thought we might be able to initially. So it's very positive.
Any further discussion?
I would just chime in that typically I've been trying to make those meetings as well. I wasn't at this one, but this certainly was the areas we've been talking about for a while that would make sense to hit. So I think it's great to finish off that piece.
Thank you. All in favor of the motion? Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed or abstaining? Thank you. Motion carries. The next item is status of committee reports.
I could go first since Jim just did sidewalks. I'll go first. I have a couple items. One is the library board meets this week, so I don't have anything from the library board. But from a standpoint of Park and Rec, they met this week, and there's a few things to just update you because I haven't updated in a while really on Park and Rec. There was a good amount of discussion. I don't know if you're familiar, but we are having trouble out at the reservoir with our trail because of beaver dams. We've had one of the footbridges has been, the base of it has been dislodged, I think, because of the damage from the beaver dams. And it's swallowed up a good amount of the area with water. That typically is where they're walking. So this discussion started up a while ago. But the challenge you have with dealing with working there is because certainly it's wet a good portion of the year. So it's sometimes could be difficult to get equipment in there. And so they've had those conversations, and I think they're talking with the Department of Health to talk about how they can go into those, because they are wetlands, some of it's considered wetlands. So they have to make sure that they do what they need to do in terms of going in there. So I'm sure that will continue to be a discussion. It's a little bit of a challenge, and Bob Shea certainly talked with Nate Foley a number of times about it. So I'm sure they're going to work for something, but it may to come to a resolution how we could solve this. But the beaver dams are always a challenge.
Yes.
Second thing would be with regards to Middlesex Avenue, I just call attention that you may not realize that there is a concession building there, and there is I don't know if you'd call it a storage trailer or shed. I guess we'll call it a trailer. And those have been left over from the football programs that we've had there. There's stuff that's stored in those buildings. The intent is to remove all the stuff out of there, retain anything that may be of use, otherwise get rid of it so that the other programs that may use that facility could utilize the storage space. And the last thing with regards to a couple items on the park, just to give you an update, they were discussed at the meeting. I know that some of us, I might have talked with some people about it, but there actually was an incident at the park where a car hit our gate, one of our gates, and did a good amount of damage to the gate, and evidently it sounds like did a whole lot more damage to potentially the car. So luckily, the person that hit the gate does have insurance, and they're trying to work out the details right now. I know they've gotten an estimate and they have to really get in there to see what kind of impact to the base it might have happened to the gate. But they're working on trying to get that repaired when they can get that done. So that was an unfortunate thing that happened with regards to the park. Couple other things with regards to it. There is some final sign-offs and paperwork that's being discussed to finish off. We're actually still waiting for a final sign-off on the building from the town. They're still waiting for some information from the contractor, so they're working through that. And so we could give a final CO on the building. We certainly have a punch list, not with a lot of things on it, but that will sit there until we obviously probably get to the spring so they could actually work on them. And certainly the splash pad is the big one, just starting it up in the spring and making sure we're good to go. And there was some discussion about signage along Route 17, which we had talked about a number of times within our committee that we had for the park, to talk about with, some warning signs on 17 that give a heads up to people that you're approaching a park and should be aware of it. So I'm sure there'll be more discussion about that. Amazingly, the DOT did not require that. And we looked at what had to be done for the park, but we certainly talked about it being something that would add to the safety of the area. So that'll be discussed. And finally, there was our ongoing thing talking about the dog. There's certainly, I've been walking at the park almost every lunchtime. I take a break and go walk at it. And anytime I go by there, there's certainly a lot of people enjoying the park, walking their dogs. So they once again talked about how we want to make sure that dogs are properly handled while they're at the park. And they did have some conversations about the addition of some signs that would be used in order to just warn people about the rules and regulations with regards to dogs at the park. And on a different note, I certainly, it's certainly been a topic of discussion at other meetings, and I've certainly seen it on social media. But, I certainly think about it when I can about what we can do about the problems with speed on Main Street. I certainly am very conscious that it's a concern. My thoughts on that, I was thinking about it, and I thought it might be a good time to really revisit and to take a look at any data we could get from the police department that talks about how successful those speed signs, those blinking speed signs were in the 2 locations that we installed them in town, and possibly look at trying to put at least one, if not more, maybe 2 or whatever, at least one though, somewhere on Main Street, which the spot that makes the most sense, to see if it could have a calming, slowing effect that I think I see. I certainly see it on High Street. When that sign is there, I certainly see that the cars are slowing down. I don't know if it will be as effective on Main Street. We certainly could discuss it, but I'd like to see us take a look at the details on what we've seen in terms of being successful with its use in the 2 spots that we have.
I'll get some of the data from Bob Shea. He does pull down the data from those digital readout speed signs. So I'll put it on a future agenda and we can talk about the potential of putting one on Main Street.
Yeah, and the only thing you should note is that the complication that comes with this, because it's on Main Street, I'm sure we're going to have to work with the state in order to get approval to put it there.
Yes,
So,
part of the process.
thanks.
Okay, thank you. Any other committee reports tonight?
Yeah, I have a couple of items. One, I was just going to say, this has to do with the Solidarity Task Force. I was just going to basically say congratulations to the group. Was at the last meeting. There's not a lot of shying away from some of the sensitive issues when you're working in that type of group that you need to discuss. I thought that the chairwoman did a very nice job at navigating and managing that, and that group did put a lot of time into developing the survey. So I hope people do take the 5 minutes or so and complete the survey. wanted to talk a little bit at the Board of Education meeting, a couple items from that. One, it was nice to see that in-person education did, in-person classes did restart on Tuesday for fully reopened for K to 6 and then hybrid for 7 to 12. They did discuss at the meeting a recommendation from DPH regarding winter sports. It looks like, looking at the two different categories, the recommendation would be to the low and medium risk sports, which for our school would include basketball and indoor track, would have an opportunity to continue to start practicing and basically potentially work towards competition. I know that there's still a concern, and I don't fully know how it all ended out with indoor track, because a lot of times, because there's very limited indoor space, you can have much larger meets, and I know that the goal would be that not happen, but it is nice to see that at least the kids are going to be able to get back to doing some of the running and some of those activities that they're looking to do. The high risk sports are still an issue in terms of whether or not they're going to be able to get back at this time. I did think they talked about a little bit about potentially letting them do some conditioning, etc. And that would include the competitive cheer club and wrestling. So for what we have, and probably the biggest highlight of the night is a lot of discussion, but the Board of Ed did pass their budget request, which is sitting at 3.97% as an increase over fiscal year 2020, 2021. They passed that unanimously last night. Water and sewer, we did have a water and sewer committee meeting. That includes Ralph and Rick Shar. We did have that last night, actually. It was a 5:30 meeting. Couple of good things that were interesting going out of there. One, water usage, as we anticipated and as we've seen from some of the, indicated by some of the billing, between some of the drought conditions and the hot weather conditions, we did end up using and buying more water than we normally would in 2020. I think it was, instead of the normal 146 million gallons, we ended up buying 156 million gallons of water. And that's with trying to run our well wherever we could. It was definitely an interesting demand year. Also important, the Brownstone infrastructure project that we have talked about. Hopefully that'll be getting either out to bid or get the final pricing to proceed. They're looking at different mechanisms, including Easy IQ, which is a state bid system. And hopefully if that can all work smoothly, hopefully they can be working on that sometime in the spring is the target. That's something they're definitely looking to get going. And then something that has been part of our conversations regarding looking for alternate water sources and trying to develop mechanisms and strategies for long term, especially as we get closer to the end of our contract with MDC, to be able to start, basically managing the costs much more aggressively for our water system. The good news is in talking with Bob Shea, the bid spec has been prepared for looking at test wells, which will give us an indication where we have some targeted, basically a couple of locations or a location where we can target looking for an alternate water source. So I think the next step on that would be, seeing how that progresses it has to still go through a legal review and things like that, but at least that's moving in the right direction. And then finally, just wanted to talk about the food bank, and they're going to have tomorrow. They're going to have on Monday, January 25th at 1 p.m. There's going to be a food share event. This is going to be set up as a drive-through event. Basically, the food share folks are going to have some pallets that they're going to drop off. We've already organized volunteers that will be there. People will enter through from Freestone Avenue. They'll exit on Waverly. We're trying to create a one direction flow of traffic. Bob Shea's already has agreed to try to help out with a couple of signage, et cetera, to help manage that. And effectively what will happen is folks don't have to get out of their car. They show up and we'll have volunteers that can help load boxes from the food share folks at distribution right into their vehicle for them to obviously minimize contact in the days of COVID. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, hey, Jim. Can I ask you a question on, you mentioned April's, the survey on,
Yes.
where do we access that?
Oh,
was-
I think that when she issued it, I know that there's different mechanisms and she's on, so I don't know if she would want to try to answer, but I know that we were sent a link. So if we look at
With
the
an
email,
email?
yeah, we
It's
we
on our-
got a link for that.
Okay, I might have missed it. I'll go back and look through my emails.
Yeah, but I know that they're putting paper copies out. I think it's going to end up on the town website. I'm not sure if it's there or not, but I know the commission, I mean, I know that the task force talked about asking to have that done, and they're trying to send it out through as many avenues as they can to advertise it. I think they might be looking at maybe trying to throw it on the Portland website. I mean, the one that I'm blanking on the Facebook community page as well to try to get it out. The fact is that the goal of the survey is to get as much feedback as they can so that they can target the programs that they're going to put together to best fit what the townspeople want and would like to see and need, kind of need to see. So,
Okay, I'll try to fill
Thank
it
you.
out.
Thank you. Public comment, Nick? There is an online. Can everybody hear Nick okay?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
I'm actually having a hard time. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's very faint.
Can you? Can you?
No.
Really? Well, April Graves says there's an online link and paper copies available at the town hall.
Okay, there is an online link. I know it's on Facebook. It'll be on the website if it isn't already. And the paper version, paper copy, hard copy is available at, as I said earlier, in the front of Town Hall as well as the back of Town Hall. If you have any questions, you can always call my office and we'll make sure that we forward the email to you with the link to the Survey Monkey. Okay, happy to do that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I think that was it for public comment. Informal discussion. Is there anything else?
I had
I have
one,
Go ahead, Lou. I have another comment after. Go
and
ahead.
this is quick. I just wanted to let everybody know that I received another phone call from Carolyn DeBerry, a resident in town. And she wanted me to share with the Board of Selectmen that she wanted to thank Ralph and the Park and Rec Department for the new park on Route 17. She said she walks on it at least 2 or 3 times a week. And she says it's great. The only thing she would like to see is some type of skating rink, and I'll see what we can do. But other than that, Carolyn loves the park.
Oh, that's good to hear. Thanks,
good.
Ralph.
Oh, he's good.
Thank you. Thank you, Ralph, and thank you, Lou.
Welcome.
I have a question. I had a resident ask me if the property tax deferral program that we had over the summer, if that's still in effect, or are we back to regular?
It's not a property tax deferral. It is a reduction in the interest rate that would be due.
Well,
So
that's what I was referring to.
yes, any taxes due January 1, there's 90 days that you would not pay 18% on an annual basis, but 3%. So it's a great reduction in the amount of tax if you're overdue. So I believe it goes to March 1. So January, you pay your payment, and then you would have, I believe, 60 more days beyond that.
And what's the interest, Susan?
3%.
How much?
3 for the year, annual 3%.
Okay,
As opposed to the what it will return to, which is 18%.
okay.
So yes, that's per COVID rules. We had that, as you remember, back in July, and that's been repeated. And that's the option that the selectmen had determined last time, and we didn't change it.
All right, so we have a January 1 tax bill that it's technically due by the end of the month, correct?
Yes,
So if somebody wanted to not pay that, then they would have what, 90 days? Well,
I
90
don't-
days from January 1.
I believe it's from January 1.
Okay.
It's
And then
on
they
our
would-
web, it is on our website, so people can
Okay.
verify
check.
that on the website. But yes, it is a great help if people are unable to pay during January. The penalty is far, far less.
Right. Yeah. It's really only what, about 0.25% a month.
Yes, yes. Yeah. It's really a big
Okay.
help.
Thank you.
for bringing that up. That's important information, Rick. Thank you.
Yeah, well, somebody asked me and I said, well, you're timely because we're having a meeting tonight and I'll ask the question. 'cause I
Yes,
wasn't
it
sure if
does,
had
there is no other bill. It's only the tax bill. It had to be a bill that was due to the town January 1. And in our case, that is only taxes,
Okay,
not water and sewer.
got it.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
you're welcome.
Sue, I have one question for you.
Sure, Mike.
I couldn't find in my notes anywhere, but the Brownstone Avenue grant that we applied for the water main, the infrastructure grant. What's
Yes.
the status on that?
That, Jim referred to it a little bit ago. It is a steep grant that we received, and you approved additional dollars for that project. And the status of it is we have a question into the Department of Public Health. If we can use the easy indefinite quantity contracting option, which is called Easy RQC, which we participate in through the Capital Region Council of Governments. They bid these types of construction projects, and they then assign these jobs to a certain contractor that has been assigned to our region of Connecticut. So the State Department of Public Health is looking at that to make sure that it meets with the requirements that the state has for the utilization of state grant funds. And I haven't gotten the final determination from them. If they tell us we can use that, it means we do not have to expend additional dollars to go to public bid. If they tell us we can't, then we will hire the engineer to write all those specifications, Mike, and it'll go out to a competitive bid. It'll delay the project and it will increase the cost, at least for bidding. Of course, on the other hand, it may improve the pricing. You don't know. When you put something out to bid, it can come in high or it can come in modest or low. We
Okay.
know what the dollars would be. That's what we based the project numbers on. So the status is we're waiting to hear back on that particular aspect, which is the bidding.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Good questions tonight. Thank you. Tonight we do have, I don't have anything on follow-up, but we do have an executive session, and I'm inviting Captain Ron Millardo to provide an update on police security matters. It's something we do periodically to apprise the selectmen of some of the security matters within the town, and it's allowed by freedom of information laws that this be done in executive session. So with that, I would entertain a motion to go into executive session on police security matters, and the invited guest is Captain Ron Millardo. Is there a motion?
So
I'll
moved.
make that motion that we go into executive session.
Thank you, Rick. Is there a second?
I'll second that. This is
Thanks,
Mike.
Mike Pelton. Thank you. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and the time is about 8:21. It'll just take a couple of minutes for our videographer and Dave to exit the room. What we're doing is there is no more business before this board, so we will not resume. We're not adjourning the meeting because we're going into executive session, but the public is not going to be part of this section, this executive session of the meeting. So Nick will put us into a room, and I'll say good night or goodbye to the viewers that were with us for the regular public session.